Your favorite fat boys.
What's up, everybody? It's your favorite fat boy, Jerron.
Stefan, aka Mayhem, aka the Dean of Social Distancing, aka the bearer of insignificant educational promises.
Oh, yeah, we got some good ones today for you. So, how you doing today, Stefan?
I'm fantastic. How you living?
I'm doing all right, just recuperating still and just taking my time with healing up and just relaxing.
So you got a few more weeks before you can hit the dance floor and start twerking your ass again?
Play my moves, yeah, you know it. I should be fully healed up probably by, I'm thinking, like middle of April. Like the most I'm doing right now is just like driving to and from dialysis, which is about maybe 15-20 minutes from my house. So they told me I should I shouldn't be sitting no more than 20 minutes. That's the most I've done. Like I just gone back, and then if I feel like I'm up to it, I might venture a little further, like go to the grocery store or maybe pick up my medication, things like that. Your house is a bit more of a drive, like about 45 minutes. And the only thing I think that would happen is I would be really uncomfortable and it would just be a little bit painful. But I'll probably make that drive probably sometime next month, just, to give it a shot.
Right.
But other than that, though, just been, working on the podcast, working on a couple other things that we can, start doing once the weather breaks. Trying to get on the COVID list for the vaccines. So that's a challenge within itself. I saw on the news the other day that they open it up for like people who are like 60 or 65 and above, and then by sometime in April it's going to be like 16. The end of April?
Yeah, the end of April.
Yeah, okay, the end of April, like 16-year-olds and above. And then by like May, they're going to open it up for like all ages. So they kind of they doing this sparingly, just kind of breaking it up between the age groups.
Yeah, they're doing it in phases.
Yeah. So, did you signed up for it?
No.
No, you're not getting it?
Oh, I'm getting it, but there's no point really signing up yet since not in the phase that I'm a part of. Once they get there, I'll sign up.
I got you. So speaking of the pandemic, it's been pretty much been a whole year since we've been under, I guess what you call like quarantine.
I mean, we haven't been under quarantine for a year, but the pandemic has been raging on for a year.
Okay, yeah. So what are some of your thoughts of, us being in this pandemic for a year now?
I will say the same thing that I've said previously. The pandemic has not changed my life that much because my life wasn't predicated on going out and being with people because ill. So the only difference is that, I'm in my house a whole lot more than I used to, which is fine. I'm paying a mortgage, so I might as well sit in this motherfucker. But outside of that, a lot hasn't really changed for me.
Yeah, for me, I feel like not much has changed. When the pandemic first started, I got sick with pneumonia in February, and then I was in the hospital for like a week. Though they were like trying to, I won't say cure that of me, but just get me to be stable again. And then in April, I had blood clots in my chest, and that's when it was at this height around April and May. So. And they would, they told me they were like, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay 6 feet away from people. And that's when all that was going on. And, the shortage of sanitizer, toilet paper, Lysol products, things like that was a whole lot of hoopla going on. Food shortage. And all of a sudden the people had to stop, going to work and going to school. They were just, stay at home until we figured this out.
I think one funny thing about it is that, once I officially got to a year of teleworking, one of the people that I work with, and I was like, wow, it has been an entire year since we've been doing it. She's like, yeah, I thought it was going to be a month.
A
So
month of what?
of teleworking before we got back to work, before things got back to normal. So she's completely blown by the fact that it's been a year since the pandemic has occurred, and we have
I
yet to
didn't know
get
how
it
long
under
this thing would
control.
last. Yeah, I didn't know how long it would last. Like, because it happened so fast. Like, it was like in, I think, the middle of March. It was like, okay, the kids out of school for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks passed and said, okay, another 2 weeks, and then next thing you know, my dad, he's staying home working, and it's like he's been staying home for over a year now. And they were telling him when he first started working, probably at the end of March from home. They told him, by the end of the year, we'll let you know if we're going back to the actual office or not. That came and went. They're like, we'll let you know by January. That came and went. Just stay home until further notice.
Yeah, that's how it was with my company as well. They kept sending out emails every month. Oh yeah, we're extending telework. We're extending telework. We'll revisit this, and it was like, hey, you know what? We'll get back to it when we get back to it.
Right. It's on the board. It's on the drawing board. But we don't know nothing about nothing right now. And my mom, she had to go to work because they deemed her, quote unquote, an essential employee.
Right.
She was just hoping that they would just be like, okay, y'all maybe come in maybe a couple days out the week, but not to come out, Monday through Friday like she has been. But they deemed her, quote unquote, essential. That was a wrap for her pretty much.
Yeah. Said, AKA, you're the first to be gone when you gone. So that's all essential means. Expendable.
Yeah. And have you known anybody that's caught within this year caught the coronavirus?
Yeah. So I
Oh,
know
okay.
of two people who caught it. They both recovered. One of the people who caught it, they still have some issues with like breathing, but the other person that caught it and recovered is doing fine. It's crazy how viruses work. One person it could be a mild cough, and for another person it could be ventilated and dead.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I know two people as well that caught it, and they just had, I guess, like mild symptoms, and they just told them to quarantine for 10 or 14 days, and they'll be fine after that. And then they don't have no lingering effects of the coronavirus. So
Right. That's the beauty of viruses. How it randomly affects people. Goddamn coin
yeah,
toss.
yeah, I know when I was sick with pneumonia, and they tested me when I had pneumonia, tested me for it early on, and I didn't. They came back negative. And then they tested me again when I had the blood clots. They tested me for that, tuberculosis, and like two more other tests. I can't remember what they were now. But I had, like I went to get my catheter changed out. I think back in December, and the technician had asked me, have I had been tested for it? And I said, yeah, back in April. And I told him what the symptoms. I told him what I went through prior and everything like that. He's like, you might have had it. I said, well, they tested me for it. It was negative, so I don't know.
Right.
And it took a while for me to kind of really recuperate. Well, I say recuperate, but to really bounce back from the pneumonia part of it, because I just kept coughing. I had a lingering cough for the longest time. But after my recent hospital stay, they took off some extra fluid, and that seemed to help out a lot with the, me coughing and, my breathing and everything. So, so I know, like, D.L. Hughley, he had he had caught COVID, and he says that what he suffers from is he has like these little memory lapses where he can't think of the word he's trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, studies have shown that coronavirus has a effect on mental capacity. So
Really?
again, as they study it, there's going to be a ton of more information comes out on how it affects people. So right now, we don't know all of the serious side effects of having caught it.
That is crazy. Like, are there other diseases like viruses like that where it impacts you mentally?
Oh yeah, there's plenty. But those are things that are widely known and studied. This is brand new, so we don't
Mhm.
know all of the effects that it'll have on people.
So I think one of the biggest things to get used to with, during this pandemic was, was wearing masks and keeping your distance from people. A lot of people didn't take heed to that. They wanted to go in stores while wearing their mask. They wanted to still have functions where they were, with had so many people there, and they were, too close, I guess, and they would get fined for it, for having like a party, with too many people there, or they would go to stores and they would be in an uproar because they have a mask on. They would tell them, the stores were telling people, like, you gotta wear a mask to come in here. We can provide you with a mask. We get even shot for you, but you cannot come into the store without a mask on.
Hey, I mean, it's no different than stores telling people to put on a shirt. Private business, whatever their dress code is, they have a right to say it and enforce it as long as it's within reason. So the fact that there was so much of an uproar for people to wear a mask is, even when a store says you need to wear it, was not surprising per se, because people are stupid.
I think it was just ridiculous that people would just be so upset to not wear a mask, and the studies were showing that it may not be 100% effective, but it's like you protecting yourself and potentially someone else, from that virus spreading.
Well, America is a country of exceptionalism, and it's all about the individual. We're not really out for the collective. So when you say you wearing a mask is going to help protect person B down the street you don't know, fuck person B.
Oh, well.
Essentially. Said, all I know is that when everything is all said and done, that whole stay 6 feet, we need to keep that in place. Get fucked back. That's all.
Now, is that just for your personal preference, or for just?
Hey, that's all. I mean, it should be for everybody. Just get the fuck back. All I know is, as soon as this is all over, I'm gonna be kicking people 6 feet, bitch. But there's no pandemic. I don't care.
I am the pandemic. Yeah, I know. So
how we got so used to just breathing on other people's necks.
I know that if I'm in the store and I walk by people, I'll like hold my breath until I get past them. Even with the mask on, I'm like,
don't want to potentially breathe in the same shit you breathing out.
Exactly. So,
about
it seems it's gotten a lot. It's gotten a lot better. Some states are doing well than others. As far as like their what's that rate? What's that rate that they're talking about, like, for cases going down?
Infection rates.
Yeah, infection rates
are going down. Yeah, the states that actually did something are seeing better numbers. Because there have been quite a few states that just said, fuck it.
Louisiana.
That's Florida.
Florida.
Fucking Texas.
Them say scared me.
And the one thing that a lot of people are addressing now that has gone up in the years since the pandemic started is Asian hate crimes. Well, hate crimes against Asians.
Yeah.
So that's changed within the year of this pandemic. That skyrocketed through the goddamn roof.
Now, y'all had nothing better to do, so we're gonna just pick out a certain group of people and just fuck with them from now on.
Hey, the only thing I'm ashamed about it is that I think a large portion, I think it was somewhere along the lines like 37% of those attacks on Asian Americans or Asians in general was perpetrated by black folks. Come on, motherfuckers. They already a marginalized group. We a marginalized group. Don't marginalize each other.
Right. Yeah, it's been a lot of back and forth about this backing of protecting stopping Asian hate crimes, and then when something happens to black people, like where's that support for that group of people?
Oh, come on now. We there's plenty of support for stopping hate crimes against black folks. That's what the whole Black Lives Matter was about. Right now, it's Asians getting attacked because somebody went around saying that coronavirus was the Chinese virus. I ain't gonna point no fingers at ex-presidents, but it should be stated. So there's plenty of support for for black people as a marginalized group right now. But right now, they're not the group that's getting the most marginalized. It's the Asian American and the Asian people who are being marginalized because people are blaming them for the coronavirus. Even though a lot of people that are getting attacked are like Korean and from Thailand and shit. nowhere near, not even from mainland China. But whatever. People are stupid.
Yeah, because I think the guy that did the killing in Atlanta at those spas, those massage parlors.
Yeah.
He said he I know it's not funny, but you have to chuckle at the reasoning for it. He said he didn't want to be his temptation of
Right. It was
going in
because
there.
it was his sex addiction.
Right.
So that's
And it's
why he
like,
went to
what?
massage parlor and killed mostly Asian folks.
Like, what are you doing?
Well, access to guns in America is very easy, and the rhetoric of hate against Asian Americans is really prevalent right now. So all it takes is somebody who's fucked in the head and has an agenda to go ahead and perpetrate an act of vicious stupidity.
Yeah, vicious stupidity is a good way of putting it. And this is a damn shame that one that how many times do you have to have a shooting like this to say we need to buckle down on these gun laws because somebody will use that shit.
Hey. If it didn't happen after 26 children were killed, it ain't gonna happen after 8 women are killed.
That's true.
If Sandy Hook didn't show us that Americans don't give a fuck about changing gun laws, 8 Asian women or 8 women aren't gonna be the reason that gun laws change.
Do there be 8 white men there?
I'm pretty sure plenty of white men were killed in some mass shooting somewhere. Again, it happened to 26 children at Sandy Hook. No laws have changed or have been enacted or instituted since then. 8 women ain't gonna do it.
Nah, that's a good point because that just show you how cold they were. Against just the fact that like that they ain't moved and ain't shaking none whatsoever.
Right, did change no laws. So I understand people going stir crazy because of this pandemic, but get it the fuck together.
So how long do you think the pandemic? How long do you think we're gonna, last? Much longer going into 2022.
Well, seeing as how now America is having a very good vaccine rollout, it'll subside, but there'll be the issue of a reemergence because of the fact that there's so many people in America who are going to refuse to get vaccinated. So I would say by the summer it would be over, but there's still a large portion of the American population who will refuse to get vaccinated for whatever stupid ass reason that they have.
I was understand why people are so stubborn. It's like we're trying to help you live, and you're like, no, I'd rather my immune system kill me, or fight the good fight.
So again, for whatever stupid ass reason people can justify not getting it, they'll use. But there's been polls done that show that there's still a substantial amount of the American people who will refuse to get vaccinated.
Well, y'all can have at it. So I guess lastly, wrapping up on this topic, what has been the craziest conspiracy theory you've heard with regarding the vaccine and the coronavirus itself?
Well, I know people who are really into conspiracy theories and have a very large distrust for the government. So they're big into any conspiracy theory about anything that has to deal with the government and, the population at large. So the dumbest thing I've heard is that the coronavirus, and this was on I won't call him a prominent radio figure because I don't think he's prominent, but he does have a radio show, has stated that the coronavirus is a mass government program to microchip all of the civilians in the world, I guess. Yeah, that the purpose of the coronavirus vaccine. Oh no, that's what I said. We pay for the privilege to be tracked, so I don't understand why any government would need to microchip us so they can know our whereabouts or something along those. I have no fucking idea what the end goal is, but that's the most retarded one that I've heard. That every dose of the vaccine is, in actuality, a microchip into your blood system so that the government can track you. Said even though the vast majority of Americans own a cell phone, which is already tracking you, and you pay for the privilege.
That's pretty much true. With the cell phone, regards to cell phone, not the microchip.
Yeah, I would hope you don't believe that the microchipping is true. That would cost trillions of dollars. And who the fuck is paying for that?
I mean, the same people when we got stimmy checks.
hey, and that was 1.9 trillion, and they were fighting that shit tooth and nail. But they're gonna support the $1 trillion microchipping initiative.
Right, you don't need no money. What you need money for? Oh, to pay your bills? I should have been born rich.
Exactly. You pull yourself up from your bootstraps, save your pennies. But we gonna spend trillions of dollars to inject this microchip in you because we want to know where the fuck your poor ass is all the time.
What they doing?
Perfect sense.
Another sort of being poor.
Makes perfect sense. So yeah, that is the most outlandish one that I've heard.
I think the craziest one I've heard was that the coronavirus was a form of population control.
Who initiated the plan?
Someone there, but it wasn't a good plan.
Right. Why would you use a virus for population control when it can affect anybody? Even the person
It was
who
Cobra
made
Commander.
That is dumb. He said, why would you release a virus to do it when you don't know how effective it would be at killing people? That's just dumb.
Hey, when somebody said that's like, it's like you looked around like, really? Like that's what you came up with? Like,
right. Because it's not even, say, coronavirus is, when you catch it, it's not even guaranteed that it's going to kill you. So how is it controlling the population? It's not really making people sterile, and so it ain't stopping them from fucking.
Right.
I don't get it.
It's a lot of corona babies about to pop up in the next so many months here.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be some pandemic babies.
Yeah. Well, we know what you was doing.
That is really, really, really fucking stupid.
Like I said, that's the one I've heard that was kind of like, huh? That's what you came up with?
I've heard a few. Every retarded coronavirus and vaccine conspiracy theory that has been out, I've probably heard from someone, because again, I know people who are really into that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not QAnon because they fucking hate Trump, but they're really big into the conspiracies that come out of that stuff.
On YouTube and internet, period. Like I spend a lot of time on the internet, but when I'm in dialysis, I'm on social media, I'm on YouTube, on the internet. When I see something like some kind of video that says, look at what's the video you want to know more about what's going on, what's really going on behind with the coronavirus and the vaccine. And I'd be tempted to look at it, but I'm like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, don't do that. It'll drive you crazy. So, I was saying about the vaccine conspiracy theory, the person who wanted the prominent radio figure, I know his name, but I've refused to say his name. I don't want anybody looking him up.
Okay.
His evidence that he had was a video that was posted on Facebook, not something that went to the news, not something that was brought about to a journalist. It was a Facebook video. He said, and y'all got to check this out before they take it down because they don't want y'all to know the truth. The fuck? It's on Facebook. How can you even say that it's the truth?
Because everybody gets their news from an obscure source, and Facebook is their obscure source. Instagram, Twitter, sometimes, because you don't know you really don't know where this information is coming from. But if it sounds good and it got a lot of flashing lights to it, people gonna buy into it.
So, hey, and it already confirms the bias that I have. So yeah, Facebook has become the leading source of misinformation on the planet.
Yeah, that's
kudos to you, Mark Zuckerberg.
So
kudos to you, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. People, please keep washing your hands, keep wearing your masks, be mindful of others, and be mindful of when you go into these different spaces. If it's 10 or 15 more people, it may not be the place for you. So,
and get vaccinated. You fucktards. Get vaccinated.
it's still very serious. You know, I seen a guy the other day was promoting a party, and it's like, oh, that looks like fun. But I'm thinking about, I do not want to get sick.
Right. So when vaccinations become available to you, get vaccinated. They are safe. They have been tested on millions of people before it got to you. Said, and
Nope.
if you're afraid about being microchipped, throw away your cell phone then.
Go off the grid.
Exactly.
All right, and our other topic we have today is regarding our lovely city of Baltimore. Project Baltimore, if you following the news here, it was about a student at Augusta Fells Savage Institute of Visual Arts. That's a real school name
Of
in
course it
West
is.
Baltimore. So in the past 4 years, this student has only passed 3 classes, has failed 22 classes, absent 272 days. The student failed Spanish 1 and Algebra 1, but was promoted to Spanish 2 and Algebra 2. The mother of the student was just notified this past February that her child will not be graduating, even though he has the highest GPA in his grade, which is, I believe, like a 1 point something.
Right, it's like 1.8 or something.
Yeah, so it's not even 2.0. But he would have to repeat the ninth grade and start all over. So the past, I would say, over maybe almost a year, maybe probably a little bit over a year, Project Baltimore has focused on children, being passed along being promoted from one grade to another, and not really passing those classes needed to actually get a high school diploma. And it's just showing that they present the evidence to people on the school board, people at City Hall, and no one's showing up to take any kind of accountability or say why is this happening. There's so many children. We're not just talking about one case. We're talking about a lot of kids who are just being passed along, and then they look up that, oh, you can't graduate because of you didn't pass your core classes, or you don't have enough credits to pass to graduate with. I guess a couple questions I have here, or what we can talk about is one, is this fair, and how common is this?
Well, I'm not gonna say it because it's definitely not fair. It's not fair mostly for the student, not even the whole not graduating part, but the fact that he was continuously passed along, knowing that he was not excelling or exceeding in any of these subjects, but he was just getting passed along. So it's definitely not fair, and it is extremely common.
Hmm.
Extremely common. I mean, you and I both are aware of people who graduated high school who could barely read. So it is
Hmm.
extremely common.
And you're I would say you're more so a product of the Baltimore public school system because you went to public school for elementary, middle, and high school.
Right.
And whereas I went to public school just for high school, and my parents put me in private school for elementary and middle. And when I got to ninth grade, I went to Northern. When I got to ninth grade, it was overpopulated. Northern was overpopulated by like hundreds of kids. The classrooms were overfilled. We're talking about like 35 to 40 kids in my ninth grade year in some classes. And there were kids that they literally said they could not read. They couldn't read the instructions on the blackboard or the instructions on the paper that they had. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? It was definitely a culture shock for me because I'm like, why? What you mean you can't read? Like, why can't you read? Like, what's going on that you can't read? And then I'm at one time I forgot what class it was, but a teacher had told a student, if you just show up, I'll give you a 70, which is a C. So I'm like, what I gotta do to get just a B then? I don't want the A, but what I gotta do to get the B?
Put your name on the
You
paper.
telling this kid, that must have been it. But you're telling this student, if you just show up, just show up, I give you a C. Like the hell?
Well, I mean, that's a problem with the system that was forged, where funding and access to staff and access to equipment was tied to how many students are passing, how many students pass a test, how many students advance. So when you get to that point where all of your funding and everything is tied to that, your goal is just to make sure it looks like students are doing well without them ever having to actually do well. Because if you tell me that if 30% of the students do poorly, you're going to cut $2 million off my funding. Okay, you cut $2 million. Now I can't afford teachers. Now I can't afford equipment. And then the students are going to continue to suffer. So now I'm just going to lie about it. Or I'm going to make it look like students are doing very well, even though they're not. Because I need to get that funding to my school. Otherwise, people aren't going to come to my school and they're going to end up shutting it down.
So is it on one hand that the person or the board that sets these I won't say restrictions, but it sets the budget for the schools? Is that too harsh or too unrealistic? So therefore the schools have to lie?
Well, one, it's a failure on the fact that there is no centralized standard for education in America. Each state does whatever the fuck they want to do. As long as they abide by the whole, the no child left behind policy. So we're just going to keep advancing kids until they're too old to be in fucking high school, and then kick them out and then hope you get your GED. So it's a failure on the system for not having an actual standard. We cut budgets to education. Well, mostly Republican presidents have cut budgets to education year over year over year. So we spend very little of the GDP in America on education, in comparison to like the military. So when you don't spend any money on education, you can't really expect the schools to pick up the slack if they don't have the funds to do so. So then you get situations like this where a person makes it all the way to 12th grade without having barely passed anything.
Can you really be upset that you're not graduating and you know all along that you really weren't passing and you were absent so many 272 days? And the mother is like, she knows she never got any email, no letter sent home about anything going on with her child. But the child knew that he wasn't doing right.
Right. I mean, again, for this particular case and a lot of cases like this, it's a failure on everybody's part. It's a failure on the system for advancing the student, and with them not having accomplished anything. It's a failure on the student for accepting it, and it's a failure on the parent for not making sure that the education that the child was receiving was being properly instituted. So again, it's a failure on everybody's part. And it's a failure on the community for allowing it to happen for so many years. Because this ain't brand new information.
No, it's not. Well, what could the community do then? I guess like elect different people on the school board, or
that's part of it. Part of it is, putting people in power who are going to actually, institute some actual change to the system. And two is keeping the pressure on those people so that they don't just become complacent. It's like, oh, okay, well, we just hope they're doing something and then move along. Because basically what we say is, fuck the kids, fuck the future. I mean, I say it all the time. Maybe it's because I ain't got no kids.
Fuck them kids. Fuck them kids. That's from a movie I'm quoting. So,
fuck the children, fuck the future.
So, but you were a substitute at one point in time. You were a full-time substitute, right?
Yeah, I was a long-term sub, meaning that I took the place of the teacher who was out, and I'm teaching the class. I'm creating lesson plans. I'm doing all the grading.
So that was experience for you. And what school did you substitute again at?
I don't know if I want to say the school's name because I don't like speaking their name, because fuck that school. Every time I drive past that school, I give it the middle finger.
Okay, so we can leave anonymous then. I know you have much disdain in your heart for that school.
Oh yeah, I have. I say I don't hate anything because nothing takes up real estate in my brain enough for me to hate it, but I hate that school. Mm-hmm. No, I don't really hate it because school is just a building. It was a nice building, but the teaching experience there was less than fulfilling.
did you have any expectations, going into teaching, or was it you were just looking at like I see it's something I can do, I need a job, I need some income, to come in, or
I
was
mean,
it something that you
it
were
was a
looking
little bit
forward
of
to?
everything. One, I didn't really have huge expectations because again, I went to school in Baltimore City. I was very versed in how students were in those schools.
Hmm.
So I'm a product of Baltimore City Public Schools. And then I had been working with children for a very long time. So going into teaching, even as a substitute, going into teaching was something that I was already familiar with because I had worked with children for a very long time. And then it was supposed to be a stopgap until I got into my field.
So pretty much something
So
to hold you over until something
right,
opened up. Gotcha.
right, and as I was continuing to search for work in my actual field, but yeah.
I know you couldn't wait for that call.
It's just shit. It said just a change on anything because it was a hot goddamn mess.
So how long were you substituting for?
You know what? It was a few months,
It was a
and
rough few months, wasn't it?
oh yeah, it was. Think like the first time that I substituted at the school, I was substituting in AP calculus class, which is the advanced placement. Is you do well in this class, you get a college credit. So I'm under the assumption that all of the kids that are in this class, because you have to elect to be in it. I said, okay, this is going to be the cream of the crop. I know calculus. I'll be able to help them out. This is the top tier. Them kids ain't do shit. So then I'm sitting there, I have to work for them. One girl said, I don't ever do work with my real teacher here. I'm definitely not going to do work with you here. I'm like, wait a minute, this is AP Calculus. How do you never do any work? Why did you sign up for this class? Well, the counselor had told me to sign up for this class. So most of the kids in the class didn't know a goddamn lick of calculus, didn't give a fuck about doing any math, but they signed up for it. So now the school looks really good, like we have 30 kids signed up for AP Calculus. Because
Right.
it's all a number.
But don't know it though.
Right, because it's all a numbers game.
That's terrible.
Because,
The fact she even said that out loud, the fact she said that I'm gonna work with my real teacher, I damn sure gonna do work for you.
right, and I asked her why she signed up. It's because the counselors pretty much goaded them into signing up because it just makes it look good. It makes it look how many students we have in AP Calculus because all of your funding is tied to how good the school looks, and then at the end of the day, it burrows down to how well they're performing. But then, so you just kind of lie about performance.
Yeah, because I know that when I was in was it my senior year? I think it was my senior year. Yes, my senior year, and they told us that some of the seniors in I forgot what class I was in, but the principal came down and said that we need to take this state test, and they said that we didn't have to pass it. We had to have it on record that we took it. And next year, the class graduating for 2006, y'all will have to pass this test in order to graduate. We just needed to do the class of 2005 on record taking the test. And we sat there, we took the test, and they were like, it don't matter what, it doesn't matter. They said you can put A, B, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter for being right or wrong. We just had to have it on record. You took the test. And I was just like, here it is, maybe 2 months before I graduate. I'm like, this some bullshit, but whatever.
Hey, I was in school when they started instituting all of the standardized tests. And so, just as Maryland started instituting all of the MISPAPs and all of those other high school assessment tests that they started instituting to say, okay, yeah, you know what you're doing. So then teachers aren't really teaching. They're trying to teach people to be able to pass a test. And at the school where I was teaching, we had an entire group of students in the class for this math standardized test. And we're helping them with all of the problems. And I'm like, what the fuck is the point of this? If this is supposed to be an assessment of how well they're doing, this is improving that because we're giving them the answers. And I'm sitting there working with a group, and I have the pissiest look on my face because I am not for any of this shit. But this is my job. And the kids are asking me about a problem, and I'm trying to show them how to work it out so that they could get the answer. He's like, well, can't you just give us the answer? So I gave them all the wrong answer. I'm like, fuck that. Y'all not getting perfects on this test. I refuse for y'all to get perfects on this fucking test. So again, it's all a numbers game. And I saw the same thing when I was in college. I had one professor walk in, and the first thing he said was, "No one is getting below a C in this class." One dude got up and left out, and we never saw him in class again.
But is that a good thing though?
It's not a matter of it being good or bad. The fact of the matter is that the more people failed in the class, the more flack the teacher got, and the worse it looked on them that people were failing their class. So to get around that, and all of the disciplinary actions that would come for having a large amount of people fail your class, was just don't fail anybody. And that's the exact same thing that happens with most Baltimore City public schools. Pass them along, pass the buck, make it somebody else's problem.
Yeah, because they're interviewing more people coming out, like more adults who are like probably in their mid 40s, early 50s, and saying that they graduated with like a fourth grade reading level, and it took them a long time to kind of be able to learn to read and write, and to get to like a level of being a level of be able to comprehend and function normally as an adult. A lot of them turn to the streets and were dealing drugs or doing some kind of criminal activity because it was easier for them to do that than to fill out a job application.
Right. So again, it's a failure on all parties involved. It's a failure on everybody. And
yeah, I just can't imagine being being a parent, and I'm somewhat of a parent. My ex-girlfriend, she has 5 children, and I was involved with their school. I was going to the meetings. They send me emails. I was involved as much as I could be, because I've been out their biological parent. And we get emails, you get phone calls, you get everything about the student not performing well, or they're falling behind to a certain extent. So when they say that they don't get nothing, it's like crap. It's like bullshit. I'm calling bullshit because I get email for everything.
See, you got to look at the age group that you're dealing with. Up to middle school, yeah, the teachers are sending the parents everything. Once you get into high school, it's kind of like, fuck it, you're close to being an adult. The responsibility's on you.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Think about when you were in high school. How much correspondence did your teachers give your parents?
Every day. Because I was the one that looked at like, he has potential. He's a good student. He doesn't need to fall in with the bad crowd, quote unquote. So if I was like slacking, they was calling Edges and Harold.
Oh, well, I went to Poly. Some days I slacked. My parents ain't never get a call. Ain't nobody called my mama.
They either was afraid of your mother or they were afraid of you. One or two.
High school, a completely different ball game. Middle school and elementary, sure, I'm calling your parents. High school, it was fuck it.
And that's Poly. That's Poly. Poly and City are regarded as like the top schools in Baltimore. Northern, I'm like, and I knew North has a reputation. But if I slacked off a little, one time I did an assignment for Spanish too, and I was passing the class. The assignment was, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? The little stupid assignment like that. So I winged it. I put together last minute. The teacher said, that was, she told me like, that wasn't a very good effort on your part. You could have did more for it. I said, you gave me a low grade on that assignment, but my overall grade is still a B. So I passed. So I don't see what the problem is. So me and her had a back and forth, and I walked the classroom. I didn't cuss her out, nothing like that. I just walked out the classroom. This bitch gonna call my parents and complain about this little assignment. It had nothing to do with my overall life, or just the grade itself. It didn't impact my grade at all, because I still had a solid B. I'm walking, and I go downstairs to my next class. Hear her and Edris in the hallway, like, why are y'all here? And they take me out of school and everything, and they fussing about, the project you turned in, it was, wasn't good. I'm like, but why you got focused on me?
So again,
because I was a student. I
wasn't an all-star student in the class that the teacher wanted to focus on. Because I guarantee you, ask anybody else who went to Northern with you, they probably got a very different experience about teachers contacting their parents.
I would put money on it.
Because again, once you get deeper into high school, people tend to stop caring as much. So again, it's a failure on on the entirety of the community, the system, the parents, and the student. Especially you don't want to pass the buck on the student having part of the blame in that one as well.
Well, thank you, Stefan, for partaking of giving your 2 cents on these two topics here. If y'all like to chime in and share some of y'all experiences with Baltimore public schools or even private schools,
or just your school experiences in general.
Yeah, talk to us in the comments. We definitely talk back, and make sure you get vaccinated.
Yeah, make sure that happens. So, as always, that's the show. You can check us out on SoundCloud, Google Music Play, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Peace out.
Thank you for watching, listening, and make sure you subscribe. Peace.